You guys are doing fantastic work, and it's really inspiring. It's really inspiring to meet young people with such a vision. I'm just going to take off my jacket if you don't mind, and then, yeah, I'm not doing a Buscario, don't worry. It's a dated reference. People still do that. It's very weird. But yeah, so as you can see from my slide, guys, and I'm going to cut it short a little bit because I do respect your time, and I know that everybody has plans, and we're planning for 8 o'clock kind of finish. So we'll keep pushing for that, right? But so if you look at the heading of tonight, it says the ABC of taking your business to another level, or to the next level. And with that in mind, I thought, when I sat down to prepare for this really was the first thing that came to my mind. Like, what was the question again? And because you sit down and like, okay, I'm going to start something now. I was like, what was the question again? And it's like that sometimes in business, right? Because we get so confused with everything. We get so caught up in the excitement and the hype. What did Frank say? What about this? What was the advice that I got? What's it? How should you start a business again? How do you? And we get so confused. And sometimes it's about, well, often, all the time, really, it's just about coming back to the basics. And about figuring out what that basic question is that you're going to be answering, what that basic solution is, or the problem is that you're going to be solving. And that's critically important. That needs to be very, very clear in your mind. I want to just start with a quote from a guy called Leonard Bernstein. He said something quite interesting. He says, I've already forgotten, or I can't quite remember what the question is. But what I do know is that the answer is yes. And that's the first thing that I want to share with you this evening. Is that the answer to the questions you have in your mind is yes. The answer is to get started. The answer is to get off your behind and to start. However, whatever that means to you and however that's going to manifest and play out. Okay, so that's just one of the first things that I want to share with you. You can see that I'm a small business because this is scrap paper that I've cut up for my cue cards. We use everything 3 and 4 and 5 times. Right? We don't just run out to the stationers to go and buy things. Also, when I reflected on the title, it said the ABC of taking your business to the next level. So I thought, let's look at that. How's your singing skills? Can you guys sing? Yeah, you know that song? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And some of you know that song, right? And it's interesting because that's how we've been taught the alphabet now. All those fancy things. Okay. Why is the alphabet not in that order? Why is it not Z, Y, W, X? B-U-T, why is the alphabet not in this order? Anyone? Any thoughts? Why is the alphabet not in this order? Someone's idea, right? That just doesn't look right. It doesn't feel like that's a, no, the alphabet, no, great. Understand? The alphabet is A, B, C, D. Basically, I'm not trying to be clever. It's a simple thing. We believe that the world is arranged and ordered in a certain way. That's not necessarily true. This doesn't change the nature of the alphabet. It doesn't change what you can do with it. The elements are exactly the same. What you can construct out of it is exactly the same. We view things and our environment as if it is arranged in a particular way. And it isn't. You have permission to turn it on its head. But you have to give yourself that permission. Nobody's going to give it to you. So some of what I'm going to talk about this evening is about permission. Because when you look at this, you say to yourself, well, that's just wrong. That's just wrong. That's not how things are. That's not how the world works. Craig, I don't just wake up tomorrow morning and start a business. Why not? So we'll talk about that a little bit. So looking at things that are obvious, right? Because it's obvious, and I don't know if you can really see that, but it's a picture of a no seagull sign with a seagull on top of it. And there's a lot of things in life that we think is very obvious, and we think that life is very ordered, and it should be that way. So if I put up a sign that says no seagulls, that means there will be no seagulls. Correct? No. Completely incorrect. When I start a business, I believe that there are certain rules that apply, and things will be a certain way. It's not necessarily the case. And that works both from a positive perspective and a negative perspective. Some of the time, we get fed this. I'm not going to say bullshit, I'm not. But we get fed this, that failure is important for success. You must fail, and I listen to it, and I understand it. I get it. But it doesn't mean that you're not going to make a profit for the first 3 years. Where did that maybe Sid, maybe you can help us with that. A lot of the time it's the case, guys. I'm not saying business is easy. I'm not saying it's simple. I'm not saying any of those things. But I'm saying don't take other people's baggage on board before you even start. Don't do that. So, this is a question I want to ask you. This is the premise that we work from. It's obvious, right? Great businesses attract great clients. Is that correct? Not necessarily. It's like that sign. You put up a sign that means there will be no seagulls. Great businesses do not necessarily attract great clients. Think about that. How much of your day is spent trying to attract better clients? And your boss can be your client as well. Your lecturer is your client as well, if you think about it in that context. How much of your day is spent trying to find better clients? And how much of your day is trying to satisfy a bad client? A client that's abusive, a client that soaks up way too much of your resources and forces you to do work that you don't like, that you don't enjoy, and that's not worthy of you. I'm sounding like an evangelist now. We're going to pass around the collection plate later. Don't worry. I'm going to collect my pound of flesh from you. But ask yourself that question. How much time are you spending looking for better clients? Not for clients, for better clients. For clients that are worthy of you. We were having a conversation earlier about value. And this is also, it's about how it is that you value yourself, how it is that you value your business. Right? So we're going to unpack that a little bit. You need to lead your clients to make better decisions. That's your job. You need to lead your clients to make better decisions. Apple said something very interesting. We mentioned Apple a bit earlier. Apple said something very interesting as a brand, right? They went out and they said they're going to lead their clients to better taste. Think about that. They said we're going to create things that are so beautiful and that are so amazing that it's going to lead people to have better taste. And they're going to raise the bar so that when I hold an iPad in my hand, everything else around it looks really ugly. So I need to then get a MacBook and I need to get an iPhone because it matches and it's so beautiful and it is. And it is. People ask me, I really enjoy Apple products. And people ask me why, and I say because it's pretty. I'm not going to have the Apple versus Samsung conversation. I don't have to. I like it because it's pretty. Right? But that's just it. So, moving along. Leading up. This is also about becoming better clients, right? Or not becoming better clients, but creating better clients. You need to influence your clients. How do you do that? What do you think? Anyone? How do you influence your client to become a better client? How do you influence your lecturer to become a better lecturer? How do you influence your boss to become a better boss? Anybody? What do you think? What do you think? Anyone? No thoughts? I'm going to ask the guys from Nedbank. You're the boss, am I right? How do you influence your... Is he a nice guy or is he an asshole? How do you influence him to become a better boss? Never mind a better person. That's a separate conversation.
You become a better person and hopefully that rubs off.
Become a better person and that rubs off?
So, you influence him. Sometimes ourselves for a certain reason.
Genetically predisposed, right? Absolutely, I agree. Yes, ma'am.
I also find that when you manage relationships upwards, so always trying to find out what would make their job easier, you get them buying in eventually, and they will start actually doing what you want them to do.
I like that. Very good point. Am I right? You should join me up front. You do the rest of the presentation. That's right. A lot of the time, I'm going to speak to one or two things of how we can influence people, right? And how we can influence our clients to become better clients. But one of the things that you need to understand is, a lot of the time when we ask for permission, when we're asking for permission, we say, yeah, my client won't let me. Yeah, but my client is this type of person, so they don't allow for that type of, well, no, my client is not going to see value in that. A lot of the time, when we do that, and we say, yeah, that's great, but my boss won't let me. Oh, that's a cool idea, but my wife won't let me. Well, that's all. Do you know what we really say? What we're saying is that nobody has given us an effective place to hide. Because it's okay if you said I can, and then it's a screw up. It's okay because you said I can. So now, it's, you see how we pass on that responsibility. We pass on that responsibility to our boss. We pass on that responsibility to our client sometimes. We say, well, you're the one that's making this a restrictive environment. You were the one because you didn't give me permission to do X, Y, and Z. So it's given you effectively a really good place to hide, right? So think about this. You have on the one hand, quite literally, smiley face, and on the other hand, you have a really sad face. And so, think about this deal that you try when you're asking for permission. This is what you're saying to your boss or your client, right? I'm going to say your boss, just it's going to be a generic kind of, well, let me say client, and that's a generic reference. When you ask for permission, basically what you're saying to your client is, okay, so I'm going to do this. If it works, I'll take the credit, right? If it bombs out, you take the blame. Who would take that deal? Would you take that deal? No. It's a really bad deal. It's a really, really bad deal. Why would you take that deal? It doesn't make any kind of sense, okay? So let's look at a couple of practical things that we can do. And that over there, the screen is not particularly clear, but that quite literally is a bullet point. So just so you know, that's why that's there. The first thing that you need to understand, I thought I'd get a laugh at this point, but clearly it's get like that. So thank you after the fact, after I asked for it. I'm leading you to becoming a better audience. You see what I'm doing? You see what I'm doing? And now you're laughing voluntarily, so it's working. The question is, well, what you guys need to look at, right, is do it on purpose, do it with intention. So again, if you look at an earlier comment I made, is how much of your day is spent looking for better clients. Do it on purpose. Do it intentionally. How am I influencing my clients to have better taste? How do you influence your clients to have better taste? Anyway, it's a very simple answer. You create more beautiful products. You deliver more beautiful service. And then what you do is you allow them to acquire the taste for your service. And once you've acquired the taste, what beer do you drink, sir? Coke. What is even the oh. Do you drink Pepsi? You do? This is a weird guy. I'm going to move on. The point I'm trying to make, let's make it very hard. The point I'm trying to make is that if you acquire a particular taste, right, you're generally not going to move once you're there. So, do it intentionally. Construct the experience, develop a better product, a more beautiful product, a more elegant service, so that you lead your client to the acquiring the taste for you. And then the chances of them moving on will be it won't disappear, but it will be minimized, right? So think about that, guys. Very important. Do it on purpose. And then here's some really generic advice. Be professional. What does it mean to be professional? I'm going to tell you what it doesn't mean. Being professional does not mean smile, greet, return emails, and. That's, I suppose, a very vanilla definition of what being professional means. Being professional, professionals stay professional by doing work that requires emotional labor. Think about that. Professionals remain professionals by doing work that requires emotional labor. When's the last time when you finished a document, when you put the full stop there, you burst into tears? Me neither. But that doesn't mean that I haven't poured myself into it. It doesn't mean that it didn't resonate with me. It doesn't mean that it didn't have meaning for me. The work that you do must have meaning. And you must pour yourself into it. And that is what it is to be a professional. Think about a professional sports person. They wake up in the morning, they go out for that 10-kilometer run. Later that afternoon, they're on the field, rain, shine. They're taking whatever drugs they need to take to look the way they look, to perform at the level that they need to perform. That's what being professional is. It means waking up every morning, doing it on purpose, having intent, but putting emotional labor into it. Okay? So that's what I mean by being professional. Very important point. Demand responsibility. Demand responsibility. But don't be worried about authority. Does that make sense? Some of the time I want to be the CEO. When I start a business, I want to be the CEO. Right? I want to be the MD, I want to be the chairperson, I want to be the... That's fine. But you know what? What's more important? The work is what matters. Because if you are a professional, then it's about, if you are a professional rugby player, then it's not about the number that you wear on your back. And he says, it's a lopsided example. But it's about playing the game. So as a professional, right, it's not about the authority, it's about the work. It's the work that matters. And when you are starting a business, and at the point at which it's still a small business and even a medium business, the work is what's going to differentiate you from the rest of the market. The quality of the work, how much emotional labor you have put into that particular offering that you're putting out into the market. It's doing the work that matters, right? So, let's look at the next point. And let's not get our cards confused. Reflect credit, embrace blame. So think about this, Nedbank. Do little things that won't get you fired. Right? Little things that won't get you fired. And then if it works, give your boss the credit. This is one way of influencing your client, right? If it works, give your boss the credit. If it doesn't work, embrace the blame. My bad, you're not going to get fired. So, you're still an asshole. Everything stays quo. Well, what you got to lose? What do you have to lose? Think about this as an orientation, guys. Going back to the previous slide. What did the previous slide say? Demand responsibility, don't worry about authority, right? And then, reflect credit and embrace blame. Take those two things. And it creates a... Can you imagine the dynamic of meetings change completely? There's no power struggle. It's a question of... It's all you, man. Because it's the work that matters. I'm building something over here. If you're building a little castle in the sky, that's fantastic. Go for it. That's what you're using your energy to do, that's fine. I'm building something that's bigger than me. Okay? So, think about that. Connections create value. You have in your pockets, you have connection machines, right? Some of you are pointing them at me. You have connection machines. This is what the pundits are referring to as the golden age of connections. Right? We are at a time now where it's easier to connect with people than it's ever been. You can fill a room at an event. You can have an event with 500 paying people in those seats with just what you have in your pocket. You can put out something on the internet and have 1 million people read it just with what you have in your pocket. But you're playing Candy Crush. I'm saying, let it reflect. Let it reflect back, right? Connections create value. What connections are you making between people, right? And you guys can go and read about the connection economy. It's very interesting. We've moved from the industrial economy to the connection economy, right? And in the connection economy, the people who are going to make the changes, the people who are going to be successful, are the conveners, are the people who are able to bring other people together and facilitate conversations. People who are going to see value. So think about that. Connections create value. And then this is very important. If they don't get it, go somewhere else. So you've built something, you've created something, and so it's really about going out there and saying, hi, I've created, this is what I've created, what do you think? And the person that you're standing in front of says, oh well, no, I don't like it. Then it's not for you, thank you. Yeah. And let's go and have that conversation. It's not a reflection of what you created, necessarily. So don't become blind to your flaws, right? But it's not, we take it so personally, our world crumbles. Because somebody didn't see value in what I created, so it must be rubbish. That's not the case. That's not the case. If they don't get it, go somewhere else. It's like when you tell a joke, like I did earlier, and nobody laughs. Right? Then find another group of people to tell the joke. But also, reflect on the fact that maybe you're bad at telling jokes. So it's one of those two things. It's one of those two things. So be honest with yourself in terms of that, right? If they don't get it, go somewhere else. Pick yourself. Pick yourself. If you're waiting to get picked, if you're waiting to be discovered, I've got some very sad news for you. It's not going to happen. It's a sure way of being unhappy And there's a high probability of being unsuccessful. If you're sitting there waiting to be discovered, I'm amazingly talented, and this wonderful singer, actress, model, I'm sitting here, and why has nobody discovered me? And then you're going to be a 35-year-old ex-model, and then you're going to be a 40-year-old something else. Don't wait to be discovered. Pick yourself. Become your own client. When you become your own client, then you're creating things for yourself. And when you create it for yourself, and you see the value in that, then you're able to share that. And then, you can't really see, but you can see enough of that. But that's shame. And that was mentioned earlier, where people are saying, who are you? Who are you to start a business? Who are you to talk about being successful? Shame is a project killer. Shame kills projects. We worry about what our families are going to say. We worry about what our... I tell you, I'm married and I have 2 kids. And every day when I get back from work, from being in the streets, going to meetings and doing all of that, and I come home without having signed any business, it's the worst feeling. It's the worst feeling because they look at me, I'm a superhero to my 2 girls, and I'm not so much to my wife. And I don't want shame. I don't want like, what did you bring today? Nothing. I don't want that. And so does that stop us sometimes from following through? Does that stop us from developing our ideas? Because who am I to, because you said you can't even run a spaza shop. You come from a lineage that couldn't even do that. And now you're saying you want to start this IT empire. What are you talking about? So don't accept the shame that people want to push on you. Don't accept it. And then in conclusion, I want to say the following. Your job is not to make something for everyone. And that's the conversation we're having. We want to take things that appeal to the mass market. We want to create products that appeal to the mass market. Your job is not to create something for everyone. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah.
There are going to be people that are not going to buy what you've made. And then it's very important, I want to read this. The people who do work that matters aren't doing work that's popular. They're doing work that changes people. So the people that do work that matters aren't doing work that's popular. They're doing work that changes people. I saw a musician walk in a bit earlier. And I hope he comes to perform for us later, afterwards. Am I right? It might not be for you. You might put up your nose at it. You might decide, or maybe it's someone else's guitar. I don't know. But it's your guitar? Yeah. Okay. You might decide that it's not for you, but the fact of the matter is, he's created it. It belongs to him, and your opinion to him isn't real. It's not for everyone. And so what matters is, there's a very, very nice quote that I want to share with you in conclusion. And it's by, and I forget this woman's name, and it's very, and I'm clear that I've forgotten the name, so that's respectful in some way. But it's not my quote. Let me put it that way. And she said something, she was addressing her room, and she said the following. She said, I have no doubt that everybody sitting in front of me will be successful. The question is, will you matter? And so I hope that you do. That's my Twitter handle. You can't see my email address. That's awesome because then you can't spam me. But you can so hit me up on Twitter and we can have a conversation. I really like coffee, not the cheap kind. So save up, invite me, and we can